not show you this, so I'm gonna just show you this. You ready? Scott's laughing.
That is definitely gonna kick your ass.
I'm not gonna show you this, guys. Don't look at this. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble.
This clip right here sparked a lot of discussion when it was first shown, showcasing a Cloverfield-inspired scene within Warframe that features a familiar face to this channel, the Flying Eidolon. But it's in the Gas City Rework in Jupiter? This is very puzzling, but in this video I've pieced together a potential narrative and an answer that may shock you, and why I think that by the time the Gas City Rework comes, we'll get the Flying Eidolon fight, or at the very least see it in all its glory in game. But we'll also find out when the Gas City Rework could possibly be released due to a recent development in the Nightwave of all things. So without further ado, let's just look at why the new Eidlon could be coming very soon. Now, unlike my previous Flying Eidolon video where we pieced together the result, today we'll be finding a definitive link between the Corpus and the Sentients and figure out exactly how this scene occurs and what it could mean for the near future of Warframe. And if you haven't checked out my previous video I made last year, then it contains the origins of the colossal Sentient and why we see the flying Sentient in the Mask of the Revenant quest. And there's a few things I'd like to address about that video going forward, since I did link it to the Chimera prologue, but the Chimera prologue we got was completely different to what I speculated. And back then, little was known about the Chimera prologue except what was leaked by Steve, which, looking closer at that snippet and what we got in the end product, don't seem to correlate, and I have three potential answers for this. This may be a scrapped storyline that didn't make the cut, it was saved for future use, or I got things completely wrong, which all three scenarios are all rather likely. But as I said, that's the fun about speculation, you could be totally wrong, but I think that video still has substance, and if at any point that particular snippet is used, then at least that statement sort of had merit. But with that in mind, this video is of course speculation based on what we have right now, and is subject to change. That's a disclaimer. Or it could be completely wrong, and I encourage all of you to tell me what your interpretation of all of this is in the comments. When this clip was initially leaked by Steve, Fortuna wasn't released. It was on the horizon, and this is important because one of the most obvious ties to the Sentients and the Corpus lies within the Enrichment labs that are on Ropalolyst that at the time we saw little to nothing of, only showing off a couple of rooms that showed Sentient dissections, not to mention there was the Valkyrie Prime trailer which predated all this, showcasing ties to the Corpus and Sentients with their sentient-like turret that trapped Valkyrie, and that was a fair amount of time before we knew anything about Fortuna or the Flying Eidolon. And when Fortuna was released, it seemed like this clip went under the radar, which is something I've noticed about DE. Something will be leaked, showcasing something that could totally change Warframe, not too long before a massive update comes out, making everyone forget about that little piece of information until it's relevant again. That's why I'm here. And it's a genius way to make these mysteries engaging, and you can see many examples of this in the previous Flying Eidolon video. Okay, I'm not going to do any more shameless plugs, but with Fortuna we of course had access to the entire map, and I and many others explored the heck out of this on day one, and especially the aforementioned Enrichment labs, which were now accessible to us, and we had access to all the rooms to work out exactly what's going on within the Orbalis. In the first room we can see an analysis on a DNA strand and a shipment from the spaceport, which will become important later on. Going in deeper we can see the walls of flesh that look like the Unum walls, but are from various locations scattered around Orbalis, such as the Orokin dig site and the destroyed coolant tower, which shows us exactly what's inside of these, and we'll make a connection to the living Orokin tower shortly. Each layer is dissolved, leaving the remains to be used for an unknown purpose. And this room shows the fruits of the Corpus's research on the Sentients, the Beta Core and the Occucore, Corpus weapons that incorporate sentient technology. Only a couple of the many devices that use sentient technology, along with the sentient turrets that we see in the Valkyrie Prime trailer that were eventually put into Fortuna, and even used for the Profit Taker's ability to adapt to damage. So there's no doubt the Corpus have a diverse understanding of how the Sentients work, And given recent developments with the Nightwave, that becomes even more evident, but I'm not going to spoil that just yet. And you know how to fully utilise the sentient biology for weaponry. But how exactly did the Corpus get their hands on the sentients? Well, I have a couple of explanations, but of course, these are just speculation based on what I know, and I don't know how many times I've said speculation in this video. The Corpus have been seen on Cetus, and have probably been out on the plains to salvage what they could find, and lucky for them, the plains is a graveyard filled with sentient parts ripe for research, and even in Grineer camps, there are just parts just sitting there. And we all know the Grineer wouldn't really be able to do much of these, given that they're not really the brightest bulbs in the lamp, and so would it be too far-fetched to say that the spaceport allows them to easily transport sentient parts from the plains to their enrichment labs, and also transport the fruits of their research to Jupiter? No, I'm getting way too ahead of myself right now. It's unexplained how they got a full sentient body instead of just a part of the Eidlon, but I'm pretty sure that tie will come up at some point in time. The one thing that would be very vital to their research is access to the Void. Well, this Void portal device they found near the Orokin dig site, and assuming they had a key, with the resources they have now, access to the Void could open them up to many more possibilities, such as using the sentience weakness against them, in case they ever lashed out on them, or have them build up a resistance to the Void energy to create a new sentient race, and much like what the original sentients had to do by sacrificing their ability to reproduce. But here's the thing, imagine the regenerative properties of the Unum counteracted that, which could be what the Corpus plan to do given their research on the living coolant towers, which are organic and similar to living Orokin towers on Earth, and especially the Unum. There's no known definitive link between the coolant towers and the Unum, only that they're both towers and they're of course Orokin, which means that they incorporate living matter into their structure. So if they biologically work in the same manner, this could mean that the goal of the colossal sentient could very well be achieved by an outside source, in this case the Corpus. And their final room is a little bit confusing. They've either used the research they've gathered to create a totally new sentient, given that it doesn't look like a Conquilist or a Battlelist, or I could just be wrong, and it might be one of the two. From what I've compared, this looks to be an original type. It may be a mimic. It might be. That or the lighting is just a little bit weird. Or this may be a containment unit for the sentient that was the base for their research. Again, I don't know how they would have got their hands on living sentients. That part is unknown to me, and I think it would just be a cop-out answer to just say they went on Lua, they went on the moon and got a sentient. But that's in the realm of possibility, I suppose. I mean, they've been seen on Lua before, so that could happen. But with that little bit out of the way, let's go forward into what would seem to be unrelated, but it's actually really important and is key to knowing the truth, and that is the Amalgam mods. Yep, the ones that were obtained from Operation Buried Depths, but that wasn't their original drop location. No, it was originally intended to be a part of the Corpus Gas City Rework, as you see in DevStream 124. It was shown that these mods were dropped from the Corpus sentient chimeras, known as Amalgams. And you see many of these Amalgams throughout the Corpus Gas City. I mean, it's the main tile set they appear in. They incorporate either mechanical beings or living beings with sentient. So can you see how all of this is connecting together now? The research from Ropalolyst allowed them to continue their research, and as I said, their spaceport is perfect for sending many things throughout the system, including their base of operation, which would seem to be Jupiter. There's one very important detail that we're missing out here: how the Flying Eidolon was created. Is it the same Eidlon as the one we saw in the Mask of the Revenant? And this is the more ambiguous part. The Corpus have shown that they can create massive creatures that are sentient-like in nature, and their experiment on the sentients could of course lead them to create a replica of what was left of the colossal sentient. But it's also possible the remains could have been dug up by the Corpus. But there's no real answer for this part. But the connections between the sentients and the gas city are clear, and this is something we'll need to wait for to find out, as always. But then there's the topic of release dates, and this rework has been in development for a long time, so we know it's going to have significance. But only as of recently, when we got Nightwave Season 1 Episode 4. Spoilers for that, by the way, and if you want to avoid them, go to this point in time. In this episode, we see the wolf in a rather unusual predicament, in what seems to be the new Corpus Gas City. But not only that, we find out that he has been transformed into one of the Amalgam dogs, which relates back to the Amalgams that are seen in DevStream 124 with the Gas City rework, which confirms that the wolf will also be a part of this experiment, turning him into a chimera, an amalgamation of flesh and sentient, and this could be a sign that by the time Nightwave Season 1 is over, we will have the Corpus Gas City rework in the global build of Warframe, with the possibility of the Flying Eidolon being included in the package. But also we see none other than Allard V conducting the experiment, so then there's the stipulation of when this takes place. Because there's no visible scars on Allard V from the mutation he went through during the story. But as always with speculation, it'll always bring in more questions. But before I wrap this all up, I want to kind of delve into my hopes for the fight and what I think will realistically happen. I of course would love to fight this as soon as the Gas City Rework comes out, and I'm pretty sure anyone would have that stipulation. And given that the Gas City Rework has been in the works for a long time now and DE emphasize it a lot, like it's a game changer, we should expect something big. But it may be a taste of what's to come for the Flying Eidolon, assuming that clip Steve showed is what is going to be in the final product, because things have and will change. And there's a bit of severity in Steve's voice in that clip which tells me that this could definitely be happening. And I believe that there will be two phases to this fight. It's a ginormous Eidlon. It's not going to be taken down really easily now. And one of my hopes is that both phases will take place in two different parts. Maybe phase 1 will take place in the Corpus Gas City Rework, where the Eidlon breaks out and you have to fight it until it flies to the plains, where you fight it one last final time. And the reason I'm kind of connecting the plains and Jupiter together now is because the timeline of the reworks. It could just be a coincidence that Jupiter and the plains are both getting reworks, for the plains having its rework already been released by the time of this recording, but it's yet another potential link to the Corpus and the Flying Eidolon. Because as you know, of course, we saw the Flying Eidolon on the plains in the Mask of the Revenant. And now I'll leave you with this. We may have potentially answered some questions, but this only opens up more questions. How did the Corpus get their hands on the Flying Eidolon? How did they even get their hands on a fully functioning sentient body in the first place? Will the goal of the Colossal Eidolon be completed by the Corpus, thus giving birth to a new sentient race? And how will this affect the new war, given that we have seen Flying Eidolons in that trailer in abundance? And on an unrelated note, I saw a comment somewhere. Someone was saying that they are simply placeholders, and to that I say no. No chance. You think they'll put a placeholder in something as important as a cinematic quest trailer? By that logic, we could have gotten an Umbra trailer that uses Excalibur Prime because, oh, it's a placeholder, it doesn't really matter now, does it? That's the epitome of false advertising. I don't think DE want lawsuits on their case for that shit. So, with that being said, this has been the Urban Spaceman. Like if you liked the video, dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to be part of the archive and click the post notifications if you want to be an elite member of the archive as well. And make sure to comment down below what your interpretation of all this is, and what you think it could lead to. And why not, let's also start another discussion of what do you think the Flying Eidolon fight's going to be like. So anyways, this has been the Urban Spaceman, signing out, and I hope to hear from you soon.